Hello, Ani. My name is Kaylin Tomaselli. I am Anishinaabe Kwe from Shushigoning First Nation, which is located on Manitoulin Island in Lake Huron, Ontario. I am the program coordinator at Imaginative, and this is my third festival, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. I have long brown hair and brown eyes, and I'm wearing an orange short sleeve shirt, and I am in a home office with lots of sunlight with plants and books behind me. Imaginative is located on present-day Toronto, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We invite you to please take a moment to think of the land you currently reside upon, wherever you may be, and acknowledge those who went before and those yet to come in the best way you know how. On behalf of Imaginative and the festival, we'd like to thank our 2021 presenter partner, Canada Media Fund. Now, thank you for joining us today for the panel Afro-Indigenous Representation in Film and Television, a conversation with Afro-Indigenous filmmakers Chad Charlie, Adeline Bird, and Tina Lameman as they discuss Afro-Indigenous representation in film and TV, the complexities and beauty of AI stories, and the future of AI storytelling. I want to say chimigwech to Adeline, Tina, and Chad for taking the time to gather and have this much-needed conversation, as we must continue to celebrate and advocate for Afro-Indigenous filmmakers and storytellers within the community. And a couple of reminders for the festival schedule, please check out the website at festival.imaginative.org. And each day, starting at 1 p.m. EST, Imaginative will be hosting daily director talks, a live Q&A on our Watch platform. Be sure to check it out and ask some questions and potentially win a prize. And that's it for me. Over to you, Adeline. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adeline Bird. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am here with Tina Lameman and Chad Charlie, and we are going to be discussing Afro-Indigenous representation in TV and film. And I'm excited to have this conversation as someone who is out there navigating the industry. I think this has been a long time coming and much needed. So thank you both, Tina and Chad, for being here to have this conversation with me. We'll start with you, Tina. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Tina Lameman. I'm an actor, writer. I am part Black and part Cree. So I'm from the Beaver Lake Cree Nation. My father's full-blooded Cree. My mother is half Cree and half Black. And she was raised on the Enoch Cree Nation with her mother's family. Am I supposed to describe my room? Am I supposed to do that? Okay. Not much to see other than my head, it looks like. So I'm just in a basic white room, kind of an apartment-looking room. There's a light kind of on the back of me to my left. And I'm wearing my glasses because I can't see without them. And silver and black hair, curly. And yeah, I don't know what else to say on that.
Some beautiful brown skin. She's got
beautiful brown skin
going on.
Got the high cheekbones.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Nice combination, I like to say. So, what else would you like me to tell you? I started acting I went to theater arts in Grant MacEwan in Edmonton. I didn't finish. Life got in the way, but I never lost that desire to continue. When I became a mom in 91, I reached out to the late great Jimmy Herman and asked him how I got my foot in the door in film. And he pointed the way, opened the door, and I took the lessons and started auditioning. And that's when I started, was really about 92. And found it very difficult to get any auditions because I did not look like Hollywood's version of what we're supposed to look like as First Nations in this day and age. And there weren't any roles back in 92 for anything other than period films. And apparently they think, there was no people of Black and Indigenous ancestry back in the 1800s, which we all know is not true. So just a lot of doors closing, not the right look, straighten her hair, things like that. Don't let her get a tan, a lot of that. If I got a job, there was all kinds of barriers because I did not look the way Hollywood or the industry's version of what a native's supposed to look like, even though I was born and raised on a res. I'm not fluent, but I do speak and understand most of my language. I'm the daughter of a chief. Come from a long line of chiefs on both sides of the family, but wasn't native enough. So yeah, very, very interesting trying to break into a film back then for someone like ourselves, right? So, but yeah, perseverance.
You've also done some work yourself, some films yourself. Tell us a little bit about that.
I've been in, I was in a TV series for APTN called Mixed Blessings back in 06 to 09. That was one of my first major parts. And then I just finished doing a film 2 years ago called Monkey Beach, where I played the grandmother. And I really enjoyed that. In between that, there was a lot of small parts in television series and in films, not a whole lot of major leads. I did do Fringe Festival, like early 90s, 94. Yeah, so it's I can't name everything like off the top of my head. Like I can't. I'm just thinking of the major ones that lately have been happening. So yeah, you have to read the bio. I'm old. It's a long time. So you have to think. So.
Thank you, Tina.
You're welcome. Now I feel it. Yeah, that's it so far.
Thank you, Tina. Hi, Chad.
Hello.
So tell us about who you are.
All right. Well, I'm Chad Charlie. I am Afro-Indigenous. I'm Black and I house at First Nations. Let's see. Descriptively, beautiful brown skin. It might look like I'm glowing, but I'm just greasy. Just oily over here. I'm in my office right now. Behind me is a little bulletin board, my books, got a paddle, pictures of my kids. Yeah, and I am a filmmaker. I'm a writer and director. Currently writing on Reservation Dogs season 2. I have a few of my own short films that I've directed, and yeah, they're out there. Let's see. What else is there about me? I'm wearing a beanie. I'm wearing my Section 35 beanie right here. Protecting my hair right now because it's about to be Indigenous Peoples Day down here in the States coming up, and I need to protect my styles right now. I started film as about 3 years ago in 2018. I started film, and before that, I was a stand-up comedian for 10 years. I was doing stand-up comedy, and then I got into film, and now I'm living sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm blessed. I'm living a beautiful life. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging.
No, you own it. Own that. You own all of it.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's about me. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a nephew.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here. And I'm Adeline Bird. I forgot to fully introduce myself. I'm a filmmaker, producer, and writer. I'm from Treaty 1 territory. I belong to Rolling River First Nations. And I am here in my beautiful territories, Treaty 1, I'm at my sister's. I'm sitting on her big, beautiful, my sister has a beautiful home, really beautiful home. So I'm sitting on her big, beautiful couch, and behind me is a mirror and a plant and one of her, I don't even know what you would call that, but she has art and all this stuff behind me in her home. And I have my hair back today. And like Chad, I'm pretty shiny, but I'm okay with that, because that means I'm going to stay looking younger and longer.
That's right. No wrinkles.
Exactly.
That's right. I thank my mom for that. You should see the difference between her and my dad.
Yep.
It's like he robbed the cradle and they're the same age. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Yeah.
I love that. So thank you so much for you both being here. And I'm excited about this conversation, like I said earlier, because it's a long time coming, and I'm excited to get to know both of you. So this question that I have is for both of you. And I guess we'll start with you, Chad. What is it like for you personally navigating both identities?
For me, it's, I don't know. I was raised like deeply within our culture. You know, I come from a family that's very, very rich within culture, and our community is in a house it. And you know, I was blessed to be able to take part in our culture and still have the knowledge that's been passed down for generations. It was a bit of a culture shock as a kid, to come from that and move into the city, because now I'm in Seattle, and not being around that many Native people throughout my youth. But yeah, just now I guess now I'm like considered as an urban Indian, you know, urban Native. But like, yeah, coming from such a strong cultural background, like it's been nice to be able to still have those cultural values. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if I don't know. Sorry. I'm like, yeah, like being, for me, I guess I'm blessed to say, it's a privilege for me to say, I'm like, I get to experience both identities. You know, I'm privileged to be able to say that, to be able to understand my Indigenous roots, my Indigenous culture. But also, I didn't like, I never knew my dad. I never met my dad until I was like 19 years old. So it wasn't until I was a grown up till I actually like started to dig into my Black roots. And then, yeah, I feel like that's just like, for me, I think it's contemporary knowledge. It's just being, now I get to be a part of the lifestyle and understand the lifestyle a lot more with just like learning more about myself through, I guess, researching my family, my dad's side of the family. And I remember, like, it wasn't until recently, I'm 31 years old now, and it wasn't until earlier this year when I started to like understand the roots of my father's side, to learn that my grandparents on my father's side were like extraordinary jazz musicians, you know, and to learn how they had a really big impact within the historically Black community in Seattle. So like it's still a process that I'm still learning today. Like I'm still learning my Black identity because I grew up within my Indigenous identity. But it's been nice as I guess an entertainer, because like as a comedian, it's something that I don't joke about now, but like before, a lot of my comedy was stereotypical. Like it was easy for me to make jokes about how like I like fry bread and I like fried chicken, you know, stuff like that, like very stereotypical humor. But like as I grow, like understanding more and more of that knowledge and history that, you know, created me, it's the humor has changed a little bit, and yeah, I'm pretty privileged. So I don't know. I'm like, I'm not the type of guy to like speak too much about like my own like negative experiences within my identity, because it's all for me. It's just all a learning experience and understanding. So when it comes to being Afro-Indigenous and, you know, Black and Native, it's to me, it's really beautiful. I like it. I enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Chad. Tina.
I also wasn't, I was raised in the Cree culture in Treaty 6 territory, I forgot to mention that. And like I said, grew up in a political family with a chief for a father. My mother never knew her dad. So there also, I'm lost for my Black history. We're still trying to find out who he was because my grandmother's gone. So we never did find out where he came from. We're thinking the Black community in Amber Valley in Alberta, but we still don't know. So I never got to experience any of the Black culture. I was raised strictly in the Cree culture with a lot of ceremony and, you know, treaty history, Native history. Both parents are residential school survivors. I graduated from a residential school in 87. So the same school my father and my grandmother went to. So there's a lot of that history in our family. There's a lot of just drilling it into our heads, you know, coming from a family that is lines of chiefs. A lot of that knowledge is passed down to never forget your treaty history or your Indigenous history. And the Black history, we only got to learn through reading about it or documentaries. We always had a pull towards it, but we never got to know any of that family on that side. And I feel like that's just really something that is a big chunk missing in our family. My brothers and I and my son and my grandchildren, you know, that's part of our rich history. And my mother was always wanting to know. So it's kind of heartbreaking for her and for us that we couldn't give her that, we couldn't share that. And yeah, just mostly Cree is what I grew up with. And, you know, like Chad said, a lot of negatives there, but, you know, I think everybody's talking enough about it now, which is really good. We don't need to reiterate it. People already are aware, which is good for the first time that, you know, they're learning that. As far as myself, what I also really liked about growing up in our culture is the humor. The Native humor is amazing. There's nothing like it anywhere, you know. So, you know, Chad, you were a stand-up comedian, and, you know, I have a family member on my mom's side who is also a stand-up comedian, and he does the Native humor. And there's you just gotta be around other natives, and it'll come out. You know, it just automatically comes out. You can't stop it. And everybody's like, yeah, they all know, right? Like, it's just universal among Indigenous people. And I love that. I love doing comedy because that is so ingrained in us, and it's so natural to do it for me. That's the stuff I really like to do is comedy. I love the humor. I love that part of our people. And yeah, it's just something that's natural and normal, I guess, for me.
Thank you. I love that you both are talking about humor, because that's one of the things that I definitely go to. I'm going to a comedy show tonight. I'm being out here. There's always Indigenous comedy shows here in Winnipeg. So I'm going to as many as I possibly can before I take off to Toronto. For me, I grew up in a family where I was always around the Black and Indigenous experience. My mom, I grew up with a stepdad, and my biological dad is from Africa. But I grew up with my stepdad in our home since I was a little girl. So there was always this, I always had this world of being surrounded by Black and Indigenous people growing up. It wasn't always the healthiest. People weren't connecting for the healthiest things, doing the healthiest things. But I grew up in a family where that was normalized. And it wasn't until I got into the entertainment industry where it became this thing. It was this, all of a sudden this thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is normal to me. So yeah, I always love hearing people's experiences, how they grew up. I didn't grow up on a res at all. I grew up in urban, well, I call it the largest urban reserve, the west end of Winnipeg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I always I spent my summers with my grandma, my grandpa, even after he passed away, I still went out to Rolling River to go and visit. And it's always been one of those things where we went out to the res for the summer, like I was that cousin that came in from the city for the summer. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful experience. I'm all like you. I can sometimes get caught up in the negativity because there's a lot of it, especially being a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus.
Yes, but I try to stay in the positivity because this experience is really beautiful. I'm still learning about my African side. I'm still learning even about some of my indigeneity. It's a constant learning thing for me. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Yeah, speaking of doing the summers, every summer for a month and every winter for a month, I would go with my Muslim, my grandfather, on my dad's side to his trap line. And it would just be me and him out on a trap line for a month. And that was my getaway time. I already grew up in the bush, but then I was really in the bush, like where there was no road and literally like dog sled to get in and out. And yeah, that was my getting away from civilization, basically, is I stayed in a cabin with my Muslim while he was on his trap line. So the city was, a whole other world for me. That was like culture shock for me. And I had Enoch relatives Enoch's right outside of Edmonton. And they all very urbanized, even though they were on a res. Res is literally right next door to the city. So they were all urbanized compared to the way we grew up, right? So we still had dirt roads till about 1985, right? So it was interesting. It's like, technology, it was kind of like, what is that? That's an 8-track? What is that? Because we only had records, right? So yep. That was amazing for me. We just didn't get that stuff out where I lived. So. Yeah, very rural. I live very rural. So I don't know, Chad, where'd you grow up? Like right in Seattle? Like, did you ever go out on the Lone Prairie?
Yeah, down here, so I go back home at any chance that I could get.
Yeah.
But also, like, being part of the Native community down here in Washington State, like, I've been invited many times to a lot of different gatherings and a lot of different reses. And, like, there's different reservations that I lived on out here in Washington. And it's been nice. It's been really nice to be able to still practice culture away from home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. It's very grounding, I find.
Thank you both. Chad, as a writer, since you're now writing, you're doing your thing, how does your identity go into your storytelling? And does it always go into your storytelling?
With my writing, it really depends on what I'm writing and how I want to write it. Depending on what it is about. There are a lot of identity politics about the stuff that I have written before. So there, like when it comes to, say, a script that has to do with an Indigenous and Black couple, like there's a lot of identity within that. But then there's also scripts that I've written that don't have identity politics in it as well. But also, like I do a lot of the stuff that I have written. I want to be able to include both of my identities. I want to be able to include the history. I want to be able to include my people. So that's probably like primarily why I do write anything that has to do with identity politics, because then I can include people that look like me, right? So like say with my first film, Uuta, which it actually premiered at Imaginative in 2019. With that film, I was able to include my entire community, from the writing process to production to post-production. I can't say every, but damn near every dollar of that production money went into my community, and it paid my people, So when I write these stories, if I'm writing geared towards identity, it's more geared towards community and inclusivity, right? And that's a beautiful thing. I like to be able to do that. I like to be able to write my friends into something, and tell a story. So like I said, I have a script about a Black and Indigenous couple. And
oh, so do I.
it's about, it's a Black and Indigenous love story, and to me, I wrote it based in 1989. So this is like, in a perfect world, this is how my parents met, and it's just, when you're a writer, the most powerful thing you can write is what you know, and what I know is I know my identity, I know my history, I know my people, and I like to. That's how I write my identity into it, is including community and including my community and my people's experiences.
I hope you all were writing this down. That was like wisdom to the T. Thank you, Chad.
That's so funny. You're writing it. I'm writing my parents' love story too right now, and it's set in like the 70s and
oh wow,
the 60s, like when they first got together. And back in the day, it was kind of challenging for them. So, yeah, interesting.
This sounds like a series. We're bringing a series together.
Oh yeah, I already. That's exactly how I'm writing it too. It's like there's just so much, because I heard so many stories from my mom and dad growing up of what it was like for them in the 60s when they got together, and what they went through, but also all the love that they're still together, right? They're 78 years old. So I was like, I got to write these stories down. So I asked my mom, I was like, do you mind if I start writing this down? Because, this is a story it's a love story, needs to be told. And she's like, go ahead. Just be nice. I was like, okay, Mom. So yeah, I've been doing the same thing. So.
I love it.
I think it's the time for us as Afro-Indigenous that it is time to tell those stories, because honestly, you don't see them anywhere. It's almost like, nobody's had the ability or has been in the situation that they can write those stories until, we decide it's like, no, I'm writing this story. It needs to be told. Because there's every kind of Indigenous story lately out there, but not this one.
Mm-hmm.
Not say what my parents went through or what Chad's went through, right? And those kind of love stories that I think are crucial. They need to be told, right?
Absolutely. So, Tina, I want to ask you about your experience as an actress. You talked about sort of some of the barriers that you face.
Yeah,
Can you tell us a little bit more about that and sort of how you've been able to navigate it to be where you are today?
Well, it hasn't been nice. I've been in the industry since, like I said, 92, but you wouldn't know by my resume because I just would not get hired. I've literally walked into an audition for over the years, and casting people literally would just say, "Nope, I want Native," and walk right back out. I would drive all the way to Calgary from where I lived, and that would happen to me. Or I'd drive to Edmonton because my res is about 2.5 hours north of Edmonton. So that's a 5-hour drive to go to Calgary. And that would happen to me. And I'd walk right back out. And very, very frustrating. When I did get an acting job, I'd have to straighten my hair. I could not have curly hair, like I said. I was told, stay out of the sun, don't get too dark, because natives aren't that dark. And a lot of humiliating things that I think out of ignorance of people in the industry of who we are as Indigenous people. And this is modern day roles. This is not period films. So having to deal with stuff like that and containing your anger and your, because you want to have the job, right? You want to do your art, right? You want to make a living. So you put up with a lot of indignities, which as the years went by, as I got older, especially when I hit about my 40s, I was like, that's enough. I ain't doing this anymore. And my agent was also in agreement with me, because she didn't think that, that was proper. And I started turning down auditions because I was like, no, if you're going to make me straighten my hair, you're going to tell me I can't get a tan, no, I don't want to work for you. I'm not doing this anymore. So it had to become, I am an Indigenous woman. I am part Black and I am Cree and I am the real deal. So if you can't get with the times, I don't want to work for you. It's like I'm in my 50s now, and I'm a cook. I'm a grandma, and what am I going to teach my grandchildren? Is this what you want your cookum to be like, or do you want to be proud and stand up for yourself? Which is what my father and mother taught me. So I became a little bit more discerning, a lot less work, but a little bit more discerning. Because in the end, I got to go to sleep with a clear conscience. I got to go to sleep with a good heart. And that through ceremony is what we've always been taught, is to, keep your good heart, keep your, your integrity. Because in the end, that's all you got. And that's all you can really pass on to, your grandchildren and your children. And so you learn, like for me, I had to learn to roll with the punches, get very thick skinned. It was really hard sometimes knowing, like every film in the 90s that you've ever seen that had Native people in it, I auditioned for every one of those films and never got a part. And it's frustrating. It's like I couldn't watch a certain movie because I was a real fan of that director. And I really wanted that part. That was the only time I was very, very upset. I wouldn't watch that movie for like 4 years because I was so angry that I did not get the part. And I was like, no, I'm never getting that attached again to any wanting to be in a project. It made me cry. And I was like, nope, not doing that again. I am never going to desire it that much again, because it was very, I auditioned for the Native role, and I was submitted for the Black woman who wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's always there's those stereotypes, right? And I was like, nope, never again. Not doing that. So I have I'm more happy now than I was in my 20s and 30s, because that feeling of self-worth is there. And that only came through ceremony, really. You're taught that. There is First Nations people, you grew up in the culture. Real Indigenous culture is not a racist culture. It's not. That was a colonial mindset that was ingrained in our people. My grandfather was not. He was a trapper. He wasn't a Catholic. He never went to one of those schools, and he was the kindest man you'll ever meet in your life. And he loved that I would get so dark in the summer. He just loved that. He said, real natives they're healthy and they're dark because they're outside. And he was right. So, and I kept that with me always.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I really love that you talked about that you stuck to your integrity. And you talked about integrity, because that's something that even I'm grappling with. Like,
yes. Yeah.
I walked away from something that could have like changed my whole career, but that integrity piece, it's always,
you live with yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. So miigwech for sharing that, because it was actually really, you really shared something with me that was like, okay, I'm on the right path here.
Because when I got the part for Monkey Beach for the grandmother, that's the first thing I asked my agent. I said, well, tell them I'm not straightening my hair. I won't do it. Mm-hmm. And she let them know, and they were like, no, because it was a Native director and it was a Native book. It was, Indigenous. Mm-hmm. They were like, no, the Haisla have curly hair too. Not everybody, it's modern day. And it was the first time I didn't get asked can she straighten her hair? And don't let her get too dark. It was the first time. And I had been saying it for a few years, saying, I'm not straightening my hair anymore. I'm not doing that. So that was the first role, actually. And that was 3 years ago?
There's more coming.
Yeah. Then it finally was like, oh, no. And before, that would have never happened. You know, and good. So stick to your guns.
Yeah, always.
And yeah.
Thank you. Chad, you are in season 2 of the Writers' Room for Reservation Dogs. Tell us about that experience and how is that going?
It's a great experience. It's a great learning experience. I mean, I've always considered myself a writer. This is my first television job, television writing job, and I feel like it felt like a dream come true when I got the job, right? And it's great because, being in this writer's room, it's all like we're all friends. We were friends before this show, so it's everything in the room is natural. Everybody's cultured. Everybody has similar experiences, regardless of where on Turtle Island we come from. We all have very similar experiences, and that's something that you could definitely see in the show. It's great because, like I said, we're a whole writer's room filled with people within this same community, right? Like the Indigenous film community. We're a tight-knit community, and it's great to be able to see like your peers coming up, right? It's very great to see people that when I first started film and when I first started comedy, like seeing when I was doing YouTube shows And then like, I felt like I was in the same class as like the 1491s when they were doing their YouTube shows. Right. And then we started doing stand-up comedy, and they were doing sketches, and like, it just feels like over the last like 13, 14 years, we've come from like being YouTube people. And then now we're writing all on the same television show. So it's really great. It feels dope. And it's a great learning experience for me. Like I said, this is just my first TV writing job. And I'm learning a lot every day. I'm still learning. I mean, I have a goal to be like, I don't like to be a competitive person, but I have a goal to be the best writer. And this is a good learning experience to accomplish that goal.
Thank you so much for sharing. We are so proud of you and excited to see what you cook up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be dope. Hey,
I love it.
See what we cook up.
I love it. So Tina, what piece of advice would you give any young Afro-Indigenous person out there that wants to get into acting?
Take some film acting courses, get a good agent, and do not let them tell you what an Indigenous person is supposed to look like. Do not listen to that. That story is old. It's archaic. It is passé. That is not the direction this industry is going. And Chad is a great example of that. And the show Reservation Dogs, and myself. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. There's a lot of us out there that wasn't there before. There's more of us coming. So you stand proud of who you are. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Tina. And Chad, what piece of advice would you give a young Afro-Indigenous up-and-coming filmmaker, writer, comedian, all the stuff?
Yeah.
Let's see. I would tell you to never stop. You know, I was a comedian for 10 years, and for, I could say like 8 of those years, I ain't get paid. There's a lot of times where I felt as though like, oh man, this ain't getting me nowhere. I ain't getting anywhere. But like, you just never quit. But in all reality, like, also don't quit, because you got to be prepared. There's going to be a time where opportunity shows itself to you, because creator knows that that's what you've been working for and that's what you deserve. Be prepared for that moment, because it's gonna slap you in the face when the opportunity hits and you ain't prepared. Oh, that's the life-changing moment. Is like, like I said, I'm 31 years old now, and I started in the entertainment world when I was 18. And I'm extremely glad that like I was prepared. I was like, I want to see myself in a film. How am I going to do that? I don't have the best chances of being cast as a Native person in a Native film. Like the same with Tina's experience, like being Afro-Indigenous, the chances were slim that I'd be cast as a Native person in the show, and that just didn't stop me. So I was like, what should I do? I want to be on TV anyways. I wrote my own film and I cast myself in it, and I don't care what people think. It's a pre-contact film. It's a period piece to the era where people think that there were no Afro-Indigenous people in there. I was the main character, and I wrote it, and I directed it, and I produced it. I did a lot. But like, I mean, the reality is I saw something that I wanted to do, and I just did it. So I just, if you have dreams in this industry, then never quit.
My piece of advice would be everything that Tina and Chad Charlie said, but also to remember that you're human in all of this, because it is one of those, it can become one of those worlds where it seems hard and you may make mistakes, and those mistakes may feel big and major. But remember that you are human, and to be kind to yourself, because this industry also can sometimes be unkind. So be kind to yourself. Thank you, Tina and Chad. Thank you, Imaginative, for having us. We're wrapping up now. We're looking forward to having more Afro-Indigenous storytellers out there, seeing more of us out there represented, and have a great rest of your Imaginative.